Here we go. Depending on the season, the coastal towns of my childhood are either under or out of water, and it's only getting worse. While we might not be able to control the tides, depending on how well we plan ahead and prepare, we might be able to turn them in the right direction. Hazard mitigation plans lay out a community's potential disasters and propose solutions to solve them. They qualify jurisdictions for project grants and post-disaster aid, but often fail to consider vulnerable populations. Social vulnerability is comprised of a wide set of characteristics that make certain groups more susceptible to disasters. On the coast, common vulnerable populations include tribal citizens, the elderly, and those living below the poverty line. In 2024, FEMA walked away from their social vulnerability requirements and canceled billions of dollars towards the Building Resilient Infrastructure's community grant, leaving many Washington communities stranded. My research question considered how Washington is considering social vulnerability in their hazard mitigation plans, and how the state and its partners can further support local planning on the ground in a new policy and funding landscape. And to do this, I worked with Washington Sea Grant, which is a partnership between UW and NOAA, in the State Emergency Management Division as a community-engaged intern. And when I wasn't reviewing plans or convincing my friends to become preppers, I was meeting with community members through coastal visits to site projects and meetings, as well as conferences, learning more about bottom-up emergency management and holistic community engagement strategies. Cool. My methodology took a three-pronged approach, starting with a literature review and spending the bulk of my time in a document analysis, looking at 4 counties' hazard mitigation plans. And those counties were King, Clallam, Thurston, and Jefferson. And I looked at a lot of things, including plan content, implementation, and of course, social vulnerability integration. And I wrapped this up with qualitative interviews of state and local managers to learn more about barriers to emergency management and opportunities for change. One of my key findings was that across both rural and urban counties, there was no one-size-fits-all approach to social vulnerability integration. Each county used a different set of resources, databases, and consultants to do their work. Other major key themes that emerged were limited county resources and misalignment between different planning frameworks. Communities also had a challenge engaging their populations. We can see all these themes reflected in a case study not only close to my heart, but close to my home. Vernon, Washington is a rural community located in Jefferson County. It's got a small population, but large problems that are often overshadowed by other more urban areas of the county. Most of Britain's communities and businesses are built in a FEMA classified floodway, which means that you can't build there, but it directly contradicts zoning policies that are in the growth management that say, really, the floodway is the only place they can build. Confusing, right? So this obviously creates a lack of economic development opportunities and conflicts between citizens and local government, as well as tribal salmon restoration efforts on the Dossie Welch River. There are many Britons in Washington that struggle balancing multiple and often disjointed state plans. EMD, the Emergency Management Division, can reduce this by streamlining hazard mitigation plan requirements to identify overlap between other plans and provide more technical assistance programs for those low capacity jurisdictions. Further, they can offer more incentives and support for community engagement, ensuring everybody has a seat at the planning table. I compiled these findings into a 100-page report. I'll cut to the chase. You've seen enough lightning talks. As FEMA takes a step back, the state must take a step forward, offering more tailored policies for Washington communities. And in their current format, hazard mitigation plans serve primarily as a funding mechanism, not a community resource. They're written in about 1,000 pages in inaccessible language, and instead they should be written for other community planning departments, as well as the communities that they're written for. And lastly, as funding becomes more sparse and disasters more frequent, emergency managers must consider policy-level solutions that transcend a 5-year update cycle, investing in a new foundation rather than frequent renovations. I want to take this time to acknowledge the many individuals, communities, rivers, beaches, and mountains that have collectively provided me so much purpose and opportunities for resilience. Thank you so much. That was easier than marathons. Yeah. Maybe harder. I don't know. Yeah.
What were some of the deliverables you had for your?
Yeah. So, great question. Thank you. For the people in the back, they were asking me what some of my key deliverables were. So this was primarily, this project was framed as a research project. So my deliverable was a policy report, and it also outlined a strategy for communities to engage in social vulnerability integration. So it offered resources and my take on how communities, both urban and rural, should do that. Yeah, question in the back.
How are you defining socially vulnerable? And is it the same definition in each of the sites or areas we're looking?
Yeah, that's a great question. The question was, how am I defining social vulnerability? And does that vary site by site? And I don't think there is a single definition to social vulnerability. It looks different in every community, but I think one of my recommendations for social vulnerability integration was that communities should determine what it means for them. So, for instance, like Clallam had a really great approach, and they talked to their communities through surveys and audits, and also looking at census data to determine what communities ranked the highest in vulnerability according to like a set of resources, and then they define those groups and prioritize them in their planning framework.
Thank you for that.